Let's talk JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Okay, so this episode is set 7 years after the original one, and we learn that Jojo and Dio have joined the football team and have also kind of, sort of, become best friends. Not really, but kind of, sort of. In the face of the public, they pretend to be best buds and all that. But Jojo still hasn't forgiven Dio for what he did 7 years earlier, and Dio still hates Jojo's guts. So that's pretty much it. We also learn in this episode that Dio has been poisoning Jojo's father for the past couple of years, and that he's been lying in wait for 7 years so that he could steal the Joestar family fortune for himself. Except that Jojo, who has been experimenting with the stone mask after realizing what it did when it reacted to Dio's blood, and after pouring through several manuscripts and trying to figure out what happened to the stone mask and why it did what it did, happens across Dario Brando's old letter and realizes that Dario had suffered from the same symptoms as Jojo's father, and confronts Dio about it, and about how he thinks Dio might have been poisoning Jojo's father, and asks Dio that if he truly wasn't poisoning Jojo's father, to come forward and say it and swear on his father's honor, which Jojo knows he can't do because his father was a raging alcoholic. And sure enough, Dio's reaction is over the top and realizes that Dio isn't supposed to, I guess, react that way, but because he does, it confirms Jojo's suspicions, and he swears to protect his father, and is determined to also find out where the medicine came from, and goes to London, and goes to Ogre Street, which is called the most dangerous street in London, according to the cab driver that he took. Dio eventually finds out about this and goes to take the stone mask, thinking that it'll destroy Jojo's brain because the spikes will jam into his brain. And he's half right. He takes the stone mask to confront Jojo and believes that Jojo is probably going to die. But as we see in Jojo's side of things, that's not exactly what happened. He is confronted by a gang led by a guy with a bowler hat, whose bowler hat also functions as a Swiss Army knife. And he swiftly defeats all three of the gang members before being descended on by a angry mob of sorts, I guess. And this angry mob is trying to kill Jojo, but then bowler hat guy stands up and claims that he has a lot of honor, and then he's a gentleman through and through, because he could have easily killed all three of his gang members, but instead he held back and gives him the destination he needs to figure out where the medicine was made. Meanwhile, Dio decides to do a bit of a test with a mask, something he kind of sort of succeeds with, sort of. He's wandering around the streets of London drunk, trying to find Jojo, when he's confronted by two guys and fights them. He attacks one with a bottle, which causes blood to splatter everywhere, and he falls over. Then the other guy, he uses the mask on. He latches the mask on the dude's face, kills the other guy, the short one, and the blood splatters on the tall one's face, and the spikes stab into his back of his head, which would kill him, except for the fact that the mask, upon doing this, unleashes a burst of light, which causes the guy to become a vampire. And Dio quickly learns this and realizes just what kind of power the mask actually has, and heads home with this newfound knowledge, only to be confronted by Jojo, who has in fact figured out that the medicine was in fact poison. And that's where the episode ends. So, yeah, Jojo knows about what happened and knows that he most likely poisoned his original birth father as well, and realizes this, and realizes that he needs to confront Dio and have him arrested about this. So that's exactly what's going to happen in the next episode, because we see the preview. We know what's going to happen, and most people who have seen this series probably also know what's going to happen at this point. But yeah, the series is intricate. I like it. It's intricate. It's got an intricate plot, but it's also got its own, I guess, charm. I mean, it's not complicated. And we also get confirmation that what happens to Dio is going to be 10 times worse than Jack the Ripper, who was alive during that time period when the anime was set. So we know for a fact that this is going to be even worse than what actually happened. So yes, this is in fact going to be a bigger tragedy because of their feud. So yes, it's going to have a long-lasting impact on the show. I can already tell you that. Because now Dio knows what the mask can do and how it's going to be able to turn people into vampires. And I'm assuming it's going to turn him into an exceptionally powerful vampire, because he is a pretty prime specimen for being a really good vampire, I guess. We don't really learn much about what the mask is a little bit. We know that it was made by some sort of ancient tribe, but that's where the trail runs cold. And that's what Jojo was experimenting with. He was experimenting with little drops of blood on the mask to see what it did. But he's not entirely sure where it came from or what it was. All he knows is that it belonged to his mother. And that's really it. That's really all he knows. So, yeah, I'm assuming we're going to learn more about what the stone mask is and how it's going to play into the story later. And also, we never see Bowler Hat Guy again, I'm assuming, so probably shouldn't worry about him all that much. But yeah, if you guys have seen this episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, what did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comments section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. If you liked it, hit that like and the subscribe button. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!